Now, I know that some of you have suggested printing out a picture of my face, my devilishly handsome face, my very gorgeous
brother, this guy stinks!
And you were going to print it out and staple it on telephone poles. You can do that. I don't recommend that. That's weird. But liking and subscribing is a lot easier, and we do appreciate that. So that brings us to the next thing that we're outraged over. The Southern Poverty Law Center and, of course, Act Blue, which is, again, Act Blue, the Democrats' primary voting platform donation, their donation platform. You donate to a little of the old Act Blue app, and then they distribute that to the candidate. Well, they're in trouble because a Democrat committee member decided during the week in the committees to openly advertise and call for people to go donate to Act Blue during a committee, which is extra illegal.
Hey, you can't park there.
You can't do that. Number two, the left is extremely outraged over the hearings over the Southern Poverty Law Center, which the more that we find out in this lawsuit, in which they were, if you tried, I played a Family Guy clip a little bit ago. If Family Guy played a cutaway scene where Peter Griffin was working for the SPLC and purchased an order for a bunch of white hoods and crosses to burn and like booked a venue for a rally, that would not be considered funny. That would be considered way too on the nose and like too far-fetched. The comedy wouldn't work there. But that is exactly what we were finding out from the actual SPLC investigation. They propped up, they planned for, they paid and staffed a huge portion of actual white supremacist groups to just gin up a bunch of racial angst so they could go raise money while individuals are being stabbed in ways that don't fit that narrative, and then suggest actually it's the white people that are the problem. So one of the champions on this, on the SPLC has been the, Jamie Raskin. And he's very mad that Donald Trump said he should be thrown out of Congress, which he absolutely should be, by the way, at very, very least perjured.
Jamie Raskin, a loser in life, who worked endlessly during my first term to impeach me and failed miserably, wasting the country's money, time, blah, 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 blah. And at the end he says, expel the bum.
Okay, first of all, we succeeded in impeaching him. We passed an impeachment resolution.
Yep, exactly.
It was 232 to 198 for his incitement of a violent insurrection against the Union.
Well, he has problems with math.
And over in the Senate side, he's got problems with math too, because it was a 57 to 43 to convict him. He was very proud of that, brandishing the newspaper, because only 57 of 100 senators voted to convict him of mounting and inciting a violent insurrection against his own government. There's an easy...
Best of luck with this. Best of luck with the whatever you call that, heading into the midterms. Good luck, buddy. We're going to bring the radio crew back one more time. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. The last great moment of outrage. The superest and duperest of outrages. This boils down to voting in Congress. So, Hakeem Jeffries, we haven't seen him in any of this. In fact, he hasn't been in the media a lot this week because he's been wearing his like brand new Knicks hat on air everywhere. But anywho, Hakeem Jeffries, he showed up to announce in an interview that Democrats are in like crisis mode because they think Republicans are going to rig the November election. You know, the thing you're not allowed to say about the California mayoral race, the California mayoral primary, you're not allowed to say there's something sketchy going on there, as they are now counting ballots on June the 12th. Anyway, here's Hakeem Jeffries saying it's all over and Republicans are going to like steal the country or something.
We believe that we have to operate under the assumption that Republicans are going to do everything they can to try to rig the midterm elections. Because the reality is they have no track record of accomplishment, no vision to present to the American people.
Okay, this is not going to work. As the House Minority Leader, you have to concede, as Democrats did, that the Trump administration, believe it or not, actually did get a couple of things through that were successful. These were supposed to be some of the lessons learned. Don't go so hard on the LGBTQ plus 2IA 8765 Jenny, call me number stuff. Don't go too hard there. Don't go too hard on the open borders. Everyone come in. We don't care if you're Maryland man who, beats your wife and is a member of MS-13 and other stuff. Don't go too hard on being anti-police and pro-crime. Learn some lessons. Nope, not going to learn any lessons whatsoever. Now, there are a few Republican establishmentarians who are throwing hissy, whiny, complaining, grumpy toddler fits. And these include Tom Tillis, who we got a question about in the mail time that we'll get to. And, you know, again, I will say, John Cornyn, Mitch McConnell, well, a little less Mitch McConnell because he's not really conscious, is he? Susan Collins, a little bit, lesser so because we kind of need her to beat Graham Plattner in Maine. Lisa Murkowski, out of Louisiana, Bill Cassidy. There are some grown men and women throwing some toddler fits. They're very, very upset. And they're very, very upset because the age of just looking at voters and saying, I don't care, I'm going to do what I want to do, and all of you can just go, you know, just go piss off. Yeah, that age is kind of ending. And again, despite there being a lot of negatives about some things in the populist movement, one of the good things is that it's forcing technocrats and establishmentarians to actually explain why they are doing the things. Sometimes that's a good argument. Sometimes it's a really bad argument. And sometimes you're like John Cornyn, who is really, really angry that Scott Pressler, who we've had on the show, went up to him in an airport. John Cornyn of Texas, again, who lost his seat in the runoff election to Ken Paxton, the Attorney General. And John Cornyn has been called, say, hey, Mike Lee, senator from Utah, has said, why don't you just bring the Save America Act up for the floor, up for debate on the Senate, so we can see what the 4 or 5 Republican senators who refuse to overturn the filibuster, let's actually hear the argument. Let's put it on the record. Because if we're not going to get it through, at the very least, we can get people on the record. And according to the polling, Americans are interested in this for 2026. They are interested in at least getting people on the record. So Cornyn wouldn't do that. He threw a fit. He called Pressler a grifter, and he kind of stomped off and went, come and tell me I should call for a debate. I think the best summary on this situation, on this particular one not being over, comes from our president of the Daily Signal, Rob Bluey, on CNN today. I think is a pretty good catch. Check it out.
In the case of John Cornyn, I would say just take a look a couple of hours ago, him picking a fight with Senator Mike Lee over the Save America Act. Now, John Cornyn is a sponsor of the Save America Act, but he doesn't have the backbone to stand on the Senate floor and make the Democrats debate this until they get to the point where it can pass with a simple majority vote. And so I think that you're right. This is probably going to be a challenge for President Trump and other conservatives for the months to come. But I would just encourage these lawmakers to remember that the American people are paying attention, and they expect this Republican Congress to actually get some things done, whether it be the Save America Act or another reconciliation bill.
Yeah. Again, correct. So despite the outrage, despite the panic, we still have the solution. Kamala Harris coming forward and telling us, hey, Hakeem Jeffries, he's panicking. Chuck Schumer's nowhere to be found. All of these congressmen and women running for re-election are these new candidates who are involved in every scandal on the face of this earth. Kamala Harris, she says, you know what? This is all about voting rights. And I was talking to some college students, and it's so sad.
The chair basically told us that voting was a privilege and not a right. And at the state...
Use those words?
Yes. These are our student leaders who work in civic engagement, who have done so much when it comes particularly to voting and our on-campus polling site.
So, first of all, yes, voting is a privilege. It is. It is a privilege to vote that can be taken away. If you commit felonies in the United States, you can lose the right to vote. You do not just have some magical human existing right to go cast a ballot. Now, in the United States, in our universal suffrage system, which is far too lax, you do, by nature of being born here, you are granted the privilege of being a citizen of the United States. And as a citizen, you have certain entitlements. Now, you should also have certain responsibilities because in a government, the inverse of responsibility would be entitlement and privilege. So your responsibilities are what pays for your privilege, would be the idea here. But Kamala Harris is deeply, got to get in the emotional piano music here. How could someone say that you don't just get to go out and yell in the street and that we all need to take you seriously?
Protested at the local and state board elections when they took away our polling site. We went to the front and we asked, why wasn't our polling site included? The chair's response to that was that you guys have 5 minutes to leave the premises before we call Capitol Police.
Yeah, because they didn't go about protesting the right way. They didn't file a basic petition. They didn't file a complaint. They just went there and said, hey, how come you won't let us have a polling site at a place that is clearly violating a bunch of rules on voting. A bunch of rules. Like a ton of, not just state, but federal restrictions on where you can and can't have a voting site. Electioneering being in the top 5. And they're like, well, they told us we had to leave. All we did was yell and scream.
Also try to get the word out to just make sure that everybody knew that there was an election going on and knew that they needed to go out and vote.
I'm so proud of you guys for being so powerful and committed.
Okay, well, you're not powerful. See, power would actually be having the will and the action and the stuff to do the things. I'm sorry. This is one of the things that I simply can't get over. The idea that we just start listing wonderful things. We're talking to youths. Oh, you're so powerful and wonderful and unique and amazing and great and astigmatic and photosynthesis. And it's just so great that you're here and existing in front of all of us.
And active.
You're active? You're getting your steps in a day. You're active. I saw you doing crunches behind the locker room there. Good for you.
Leadership.
This is not a time to sit back and eat popcorn and watch how things are happening. Your generation is a specific generation.
It's not. I'm just going to be a jerk here and point out that anthropologically, the group of students there are an exact blend and cut point between Generation Z and Generation I Alpha. So they're not a specific generation. Is that important? No, I just think that's funny because even when Kamala Harris just tries to say things that are important, she can't even get those things right.
That I know is going to chart the next era of our country and our world.
When you feel powerless, you tend to be powerless. When you feel powerful, you tend to be powerful.
So she's still doing her tradition of wearing, again, like the blue blazer, nice little indigo blazer. I like it. I think the shoulder pads are a bit stiff there, Cruella. But again, the white pirate shirt. Why the Kramer? She's got on the pirate shirt. Well, she's not running for office, Jerry. Just good Lord.
And you all are powerful.
You all are powerful. Do you guys feel empowered? Do you feel super duper ultra powerful?